Listen!
Welcome everyone, this is Andres Restart, and this time we are talking about that rumored Donkey Kong Switch game potentially being the true last big Switch game. And when I say true, I say that with air quotes because there's a little bit of debate there and different considerations. There's an asterisk, I should say. But I do think there is something to this idea. I do think Donkey Kong could be coming very, very soon. And that's what I would like to talk about today. But before going forward, let me point out a couple things. We are still aiming to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. With your help, it can happen. And also, because we're on this goal and we want to talk about Nintendo every single day, there will still be videos coming out every single day during my vacation, which is coming up. But because I am going to be on vacation, the videos will be taking on a little bit more of a simpler format. So it's just going to be me talking with some gameplay in the background. I hope that's still enjoyable for you, but I do feel pretty good about my thoughts here on this Donkey Kong game. I think I might be onto something. So some of you might be scratching your head at this title because not so long ago, we talked about a rumor that Metroid Prime 4 is the last big Switch game, and this was suggested by Andy Robinson during one of the Video Games Chronicle podcasts. So if Metroid Prime 4 is the last big Switch game, why would I say Donkey Kong is the last big Switch game? Because I think there is a lot of flexibility in what last big Switch game can mean. Technically, last Switch game can mean the last game that ever comes out in the system. Of course, when you say big, that implies that there's something more special about this game than others. Does that mean it's a game that's expected to sell millions and millions of copies? Does that mean it's a game that's simply expected to have a very high quality from a critical acclaim perspective? Or is it just such a subjective thing that whoever's talking about these rumors behind the scenes that have some inside knowledge, what's big to one person may not be big to another? And another angle I've considered, if you've seen some of my videos about Metroid Prime 4, is that last big Switch game could be the last big internally developed Nintendo game, something published by Nintendo that's available on Switch. And when I say that, what I mean is that there will still be Nintendo games, but most games coming out will be for Switch 2 that are from Nintendo, and the Nintendo games that will be coming out still for Switch for next year or two will basically be just remasters and Pokemon games. Kind of like how it was on 3DS in the last couple of years when Switch was out. So the angle I'm considering here is that Metroid Prime 4 may be a cross-gen title. I'm kind of leaning towards this possibility that Switch 2 will come out maybe September or October, because it's being reported to come out in the second half of 2024, and then a month or two later, we'll see Metroid Prime 4 come out as a cross-gen title, but 3D Mario will be that launch day title for the system. So Prime 4 will still be for Switch, but also for Switch 2. That's what I'm thinking. And if that happens, it will be coming out after Switch 2 releases. So when I say Donkey Kong can maybe be the last big Switch game, I'm suggesting that maybe before Switch 2 even comes out, Donkey Kong comes out, and it's the last big Switch game before the next generation system. So technically Prime 4 might still be that last big Switch game, but it is ultimately based on your perspective. For example, with Breath of the Wild, that's a cross-gen title, but I think of Breath of the Wild as a launch day Switch title. I don't think of it as the swan song for the Wii U. The last big hurrah before we move on. And Donkey Kong, I could see maybe being that. So something to consider here is that the Donkey Kong expansion to Super Nintendo World is planned for 2024. Forget rumors. I think it just makes logical sense for there to be a Donkey Kong game coming out relatively soon. Not just because it would make sense from a cross-promotional perspective with the park, but also we have the Mario Bros. Movie where Donkey Kong took on a large role. It would make sense to have something Donkey Kong. We're getting a Peach game, we're getting a Luigi's Mansion remaster, we're getting a couple different Mario games with different Mario characters. The one character that's not really getting featured at all that was prominent in the movie is Donkey Kong. So I think it makes sense for Donkey Kong to have some level of importance in terms of an actual game in 2024 because of the park opening up and because of the need of cross-promotion with the popularity of the Mario Bros. Movie still having some effect. And here we have this September Nintendo Direct that's likely going to happen because every September we have a Direct. It's not confirmed, but every single time there's a September in the last several years, there has been a September Direct. So I believe there will be one this time as well. And looking at the last few September Directs, we've had 4 major announcements about Nintendo games coming out in the next year. Now, they're not all just straight up announcements of new games that we don't know about. Some of them are updates on games we already know about. So going into this next Direct, I'm thinking we'll get an update on the Luigi's Mansion Visual Enhancement Remaster, but also the Peach game. But that would still leave room for a couple more announcements for early 2024, because that's a big part of what these September Directs do. They start to really detail the first part of the year, because it's the last Direct before the year begins. So maybe they announce another remaster coming out in that early time, maybe Twilight Princess or Wind Waker, we'll see. But I think there should be at least one more new game. You can't just have straight remasters across the board. So I think we gotta have at least one new Nintendo game that's going to be shown off during the Direct. I'm not asking for several, I'm not asking for the world, I'm asking for one more game that's not a remaster to be shown off during the September Direct, which historically usually shows off a few. And I've been back and forth between, is it going to be Metroid Prime 4, is it going to be Donkey Kong? And I think there's a great chance it could be Metroid Prime 4. But if Metroid Prime 4 is coming out in the second half of the year, if it's meant to be something that's being pushed alongside Switch 2, then maybe they're going to save Metroid Prime 4, and they need to showcase something else because it's coming out sooner. And that could be Donkey Kong. And considering all the Mario stuff going on right now, it might make more sense to put attention on Donkey Kong than it would for Metroid. Now, could we get information on both in this upcoming Direct? Boy, wouldn't that be nice. But if I'm going to hedge my bets here, I'm going to say we get information on one of these two amazing games. And I think it might be Donkey Kong. I'm kind of leaning towards Prime 4 being saved for Switch 2, still coming to Switch as a cross-gen title in the second half of 2024. But Donkey Kong, I just kind of feel like this might be the right time for it. And what it will be, well, that's a whole other discussion. I may be playing Donkey Kong Country gameplay throughout this video, but that doesn't mean I think it for sure will be just a 2D Donkey Kong game. I think this Donkey Kong game will surprise us somewhat. Not to say that a 2D style side-scrolling Donkey Kong game wouldn't be amazing, but I think Nintendo might be doing something a little bit different this time. So basically, I think it makes sense for Donkey Kong, given the promotion of the Mario movie and all these Mario characters, and then with the Donkey Kong expansion to the park coming next year, and with the large amount of Switch owners out there, Donkey Kong makes a lot of sense to potentially grab a decent chunk of sales to really help carry us over into the second half of the year. And while Metroid Prime 4 also could maybe benefit from that, I think many of you also will agree that Prime 4 might be very fitting to also showcase what the Switch 2 has to offer. So they may save it for a little bit later into the year. Of course, if it's the other way around, I'm totally okay with that too. And if somehow we end up not getting Donkey Kong or Metroid Prime 4 next year, which would totally shock me, by the way, if we don't even get one of those two, I'm sure there are going to be good games, because every year Nintendo has managed to give me a handful of games that I've been very excited about. So I remain confident that 2024 is going to be fantastic. And I also think that means that this September Direct that will likely be happening will have some fantastic announcements as well. But what do you guys think? Do you think Donkey Kong could be that last big Switch game before the Switch 2 comes out? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andres Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care.